TV archaeologist. Did anybody, was there a backlash of letters or emails? Did you feel threatened at any point?
I don't know so much a backlash as a sort of outpouring. I mean, people are very, very defensive about their ideas of the Garden of Eden. I mean, it's very, it has to be one way or the other. You didn't get a lot of. I'm weird in that I just love all interpretations, and I find them all sort of, if not equally, scientific or true, but all equally fascinating. So there was some less. It's interesting. So the whole book is about people who find the Garden of Eden. Every chapter is different, even until I get to the chapter on the Creation Museum, where it's me and the first person going to the Creation Museum. And I thought, starting out of this book, that the young Earth creationists who believe the Earth is 6,000 years old and dinosaurs were on Noah's Ark, and they have this whole foreshortened view of the world, and it's a major point of pride to take the Bible literally at its word, right? So I thought, well, they have to have a Garden of Eden. They must know where it is. And I was going, I was like, finally, we're going to get like a super definitive answer. And they're adamant that the Garden of Eden cannot be found on Earth and should not be looked for on Earth because it would have to been destroyed in Noah's flood, which they believe was just a completely earth-shattering, like a geologic sort of experience. So to say, oh, we can look for the Garden of Eden is like saying you don't believe in God's wrath, right? So they were the ones who did not have an Eden were the ones that were not so thrilled with their depiction in my book. Which I was honest. I was disappointed. I wanted them to have a Garden of Eden. At that point, I was like, come on, everybody should.
You gotta finish the book.
Yeah.
You have the last chapter.
Oh, there's a last chapter. They're not quite at the end, but yeah, I was disappointed.
Not even the definitive. Here it is.
I hate to disappoint you, but I may not have that definitive answer even now. Sad to say, yes.
How does this book fit into your development as a writer and thinker and stuff?
Well, I'm still figuring that out. But at Wesleyan, I was actually a religious studies and theater double major, and I spent most of my time in the theater half of that. And I remember taking a freshman seminar. I was telling Adriana about this earlier with Professor Zwelling, who is a beloved and wonderful guy. He taught a freshman seminar called Religion and Story, which I came from a very non-religious, very sort of hippie seeker 70s Maine backwoods background, right? So when my parents were like, "You're ready to talk about the Bible? That's just weird," they just didn't get it at all. But that's what I loved about the religious studies and studying religion was I remember it was religion or English, and English was so strict, and you had to take all these requirements, and religion, you didn't have to even pick a concentration. So I took, I went to Bali and studied Hinduism for a semester. I took classes in Afro-Caribbean religion. I took a course in the Old Testament. So it was fantastic, and I think that love of varieties of interpretation and many ways of looking at sort of the same thing has definitely stayed with me, and many ways to tell a tale, and I'm not sure where it takes me next necessarily. I'm kind of obsessed with this. In the immediate aftermath of the book, I'm obsessed with this idea of Noah's Ark when it comes to climate change, because there are a lot of people who are using it in a political way, which is really interesting. Greenpeace built a replica of Noah's Ark in 2007 on Mount Ararat to say, this is a call to action, right? And then you have, climate denying people who say, well, God promised that he'd never destroy the world again, so climate change must be a hoax. So they're all taking this one verse again and sort of making it in that variety of interpretation, but it's a little bit more sort of at stake. So we're trying to think about following that one for a while.
So what did you do after Wesleyan? Well, what's your kind of writing career look like?
Well, I graduated in '99, and I was still on the theater world for a few years after that. I moved to New York in 2002 and worked in publishing. And I just kind of fell into working in photo book publishing for some reason. Worked for a really wonderful old school kind of editorial guy who was a great mentor, but was still not right. I got into publishing to sort of get closer to writing and literature, and I was like, it's not going in the direction I thought. So I went back and got my MFA at Columbia, which I finished in 2009. 10 years after graduating from Wesleyan. So there was other stuff in there. I'm not really sure what it was, but I'm glad that this sort of chapter continued. And I'm also the most recent continuation is I've recently joined the editorial staff of an online literary magazine called Killing the Buddha, which is an attention-getting name, and it's not at all about murder or Buddha, but its mission, and the site has been around for about 10 years. It's founded by a couple of religion writers. It's based on a Zen, or a Buddhist koan, which is one of the things that Professor Zwelling would have talked about at freshman seminar, where sort of a master tells a student, look, when you're going down the road and you meet a Buddha, you must kill the Buddha, because there's always the next Buddha, and that Buddha isn't the real Buddha, and you have to get rid of that in order to get to the next. So it's about overturning certainty. Whenever you think you're right, you're wrong, kind of thing. And that's the sort of spirit that runs through this website. So it's been really fun to sort of see what other writers are out there doing and solicit work that has this kind of interesting perspective on religion and narrative. KillingTheBuddha.com. Check it out.